This is a dirt cheap mud motor kit that I'm gonna mount on this fishing paddleboard so I can get geared up to go fishing deep in the Florida Everglades. Recently, I built a custom-made fishing paddleboard Skiff, and the video got over 2 million views on YouTube. Now, a company called boats2go.com saw the video and reached out to me and said that they already have pre-made fishing paddleboards with all the fishing gear and accessories on them for only $5.99. So they sent me the fishing paddleboard. Of course, it's got an air pump, it's an inflatable paddleboard. We got the paddle, looks okay. We'll see what it looks like when we put it together. Now this is cool right here. This is a pre-made transom bracket for an outboard motor. Here is the board itself. This is a really good neutral color. Pretty happy with it so far. Let's roll this thing out. Okay, oh, so this is not the color of the paddleboard. It's actually, this is the carry case here. This is cool. It's a nice canvas carry case and it doesn't have side buckles on it. It's got these like cool military style straps. This looks like something from World War II. Ooh, very nice. Oh, this is awesome. It's got some nice hard, almost plasticky ribs on the bottom. Looks like abrasion protection. This is pretty sweet. I love the colors on this paddleboard. It's not too bright. It almost looks tactical to me. Nice gray and black. And check this out here, this little fish guy on the front here with the yellow eye. That looks really cool. I've been really impressed with this already. It's got eye rings all up and down here for attaching gear to. So I could strap down seats, coolers. I think the possibilities are kind of endless with this setup. We already have accessory mounts. We even have track mounts here. So we got 2 inflation ports on this paddleboard. I don't know if it's dual chamber or single chamber. It did come with this air pump, but I'm definitely not gonna be using this. It takes way too long. I've got an electric pump to pump this up with. Okay, first step on the paddleboard. Wow, this thing is rock hard. This is the hardest paddleboard that I've ever felt before. It literally feels like I'm standing on a piece of wood or something. All right, I'm gonna get this thing propped up on some buckets and we're gonna stand in the middle and see how much flex there is in the middle. Okay, a little bit of flex to it, totally normal for a paddleboard. I do have my spacers spaced out about 10 feet apart, so this is a very big span that we're bridging here. Ooh, yeah, awesome, all right. So I'll put my full body weight here across the middle. This is pretty good. Pretty normal for a paddleboard. Now we're only inflated to 10 PSI. We could bring this thing all the way up to 15 PSI and it's gonna make it more rigid, but obviously this is gonna be phenomenal. More than enough to handle the waves and to handle the motor that we have on the back of it. After I did the standing in the middle test, I do have a little bit of a curve now built into the paddleboard, so I don't think I damaged anything. Maybe it'll straighten out in the sun. It's actually okay. I mean, it's shaped like a boat hull, curves up like that, so it's fine. All right, let's look at the bottom of this thing. And I really like this here. We have some nice abrasion resistant plastic glued on here, big strips like this. So if you're beaching it, if you hit some rocks, this is gonna take some of the abuse on the bottom. Very, very nice. And then back here, of course, we got the fin box for a regular paddleboard. If you put an outboard motor or trolling motor on here, I would probably take the fin out. On the side of the board, we got this nice abrasion resistant plastic on here as well. So when you're floating around, bumping into the dock, hitting barnacles and things like that, you are protected. I got a little saw blade. Let's rub it on here and see how hard this actually is. Okay, all right, so not bad. It is like a rubbery material, but it's definitely gonna take some sharp edges like that. If it can handle that, it's gonna handle some barnacles and some splinters from the dock. This is my favorite part of this paddleboard, is this pre-made transom bracket to mount motors onto. There's already 4 D-rings on the board here, and then the straps that it came with to mount the transom bracket onto the board. Looks like it has chrome plated buckles and not stainless buckles. That could start to rust. You may have to upgrade these later to stainless, but it's cool that they sent them with you and that this is all ready to go for the motor. So let's attach this and see which motor we can fit on here. This thing is really solid. It's not sliding out of the straps at all. Forward and backwards, this bracket is pretty stiff. Pretty strong overall. This is gonna be perfect for a trolling motor or a small gas motor. Here's the paddle that it comes with. It's actually more like a kayak paddle where it's got double-ended paddles on it. So it's not really a paddleboard paddle. It's made out of aluminum and it's coated with some black plastic for your hand grips. Our accessory mounts here, we got a rail and then a mount on either side. Pretty nice, and it comes with these star brackets here, which are locking. They go on here, and there's some nice stainless hardware to hold these down. Now, I do have a few accessories already. Like, for example, I have this GoPro mount here to hold my camera. This will snap into this star mount and lock in place, so I can mount my camera. What I don't have, and what didn't come with the board, was rod holders. So this is the rod holder for my kayak, but it doesn't fit this star mount and it doesn't fit on the rail. And the board did not come with any rod holders, which I think was a big missed opportunity. It would be really nice to just unbox this and have this ready to go as a fishing paddleboard. I'm gonna put my trolling motor on the bracket here. Oh, there's a little problem there. Okay, so I can't actually get the motor fully straight up and down because this transom bracket is a little too far forward. We're gonna have to modify this with some wood. All right, let's try this again. So we've got our spacer bracket on here. Now, okay, let's tighten it down a little bit. I think that's gonna be pretty good. And yeah, this is perfect. I can set the motor on the lowest trim setting. And look at this, it's just touching the back. This is a perfect motor mount setup here. So a little bit of tweaking, but overall, I'm really impressed with this transom bracket. Now, we're gonna take this little guy out of here, and I got a little bit bigger gasoline motor we're gonna put on here. This is a jet drive outboard motor. Supposedly it's a 4 horsepower, though I seriously doubt that because I bought it from Temu. They're not always honest about their horsepower ratings. But I used this on the last paddleboard Skiff build. What I really like about jet drive is that it's safer than an exposed propeller. I could literally run a person over with this motor and it's not gonna hurt them because the impeller is all inside of the jet housing. So this is a good option for a paddleboard where you could fall off. Now it's time to get this thing in the water and test it out. I'm gonna shove this thing off. You're like this way?
Okay.
I'm gonna carry it over now, but unfortunately there's no center handhold. I could tie a rope from there to there and make my own carry handle, but I haven't done that yet. So I could carry it like this. I guess that's not too bad. Or I could try and do an overhead. We'll do it like this. We got the 13-foot fishing SUP out here at the sandbar. We're gonna do some stability tests on this thing. Now, first I wanna note that this has a big bow in it now. I don't know if it's designed like that or if it's something that I did to the board during the standing test, or when I brought it here, I had it on the top of my car and I strapped it down and it was in the sun for a long time. I don't know if that permanently bent it or not. Now this thing is very wide, so I think it's gonna be nice and stable for standing on. Yeah, it seems to be really good. Let me stand right here on the edge. Oh. So this is the mounting height of the jet drive that I found works the best. Now you can see when I'm not on the board, the tip of the nozzle is just out of the water. Now obviously when I put my weight on the board, the nozzle is gonna go underwater right at about the water line. And that seems to be the most efficient use of the jet impeller. Do a crank test on the Temu motor. First pull, it is a Chinese motor, but it does work pretty good. This little jet drive motor is not fast and it's not very quiet either, but it does work surprisingly well for how cheap it costs. It is a jet drive, so with a jet drive you have to keep in mind that you need to give it throttle in order to steer. If you let off the throttle and try to steer it, the board will not turn. You need that thrust of water to make it turn. And you can turn this motor totally sideways and get the board to just spin in circles. So it is actually quite maneuverable using this motor. What I really like about this board and motor setup is it can go really shallow. This thing can operate in about 2 to 3 inches of water before sand will start to get sucked up in the jet impeller and bog the motor out. And underway, the board is very stable and steady. you're able to stand up on it no problem. Now obviously I'm not going to use it like this long term. I am going to add a seat onto it, but it is stable enough to stand on. And with all these tie down points all over the board, it's going to be real easy to modify this with seats, coolers, whatever I need to fit on here. And after modding it, I'm sure this is going to make an awesome little fishing skiff for inshore and the bay and on the flats. But I wanted to see how this thing does out in a little bit rougher water, so I took it out on the ocean. It was a little bit breezy that day, so we had a little bit of chop. Now in the sitting position like this, the board is very stable. Nothing's gonna knock me off this thing. It goes up and down the waves, no problem. The only thing I don't like about running this in choppy water is as the board's going up and down, it changes the pitch of the motor, and sometimes the jet nozzle pierces above the surface of the water, and then I'm losing thrust. So I may need to adjust the height of the motor. But standing up without a handle or a grab bar was not a good idea. I hit a wave which knocked me off my feet. I then used the motor to try and stabilize myself, but that turned the motor and made me fall off. So we will definitely be adding a handle when we mod this out. After the first water test, I'm gonna rate this fishing paddleboard at a 9 out of 10. It would have been a 10 out of 10 if it would have come with fishing rod holders, since it's marketed as a fishing paddleboard. So I went on Amazon and I ordered a bunch of fishing accessories. First thing I got are these removable fishing rod holders. Now these have track mount, or they can mount on the 4-hole flange. We got a big problem here. The threaded inserts for this accessory mount just popped out of the rubber. I was screwing them down. Now, I could have over tightened them, but I really don't think so. I didn't put much force on it. I was using a screwdriver, going real easy, and believe it or not, I have built a few things in my lifetime and I know not to over tighten them. So yeah, it just seems like an issue. Now let me come over here and take a look at this accessory mount. So this is the accessory mount that came with the board. Let me just pull on it and see if we can get it. Oh my goodness, it popped right out as well. It's not good. If a rod holder was on here, now think about it, a rod holder here with a rod sticking out has a lot of leverage on it. I don't think that these accessory mounts could support rod holders. I wouldn't even trust these accessory mounts to put my cameras in. We're gonna have to switch over and put the rod holders on the tracks, which is a bummer, because that means if I have my rod holders on the tracks, I'm not gonna have any room to mount the cup holders and the other accessories. I got this Rugged Road 45 cooler in the gunmetal gray color. It's gonna match the board really nice, and obviously being a fishing vessel, gotta have a cooler on board. I really like the dark gray color. It's got a nice big heavy duty latch on it. Let's open it up and see what it looks like inside. Oh, very nice. Okay, so it's got a tray in it. You can keep some stuff up top away from the ice water. Now where this cooler really shines is in the weight. So let me show you how light this thing is. This thing only weighs about 10 pounds. You can pick it up. I got my arm straight out and I can pick it up real easily. Very lightweight compared to other premium coolers. It's got really nice carry handles on it, drain on it, of course. And we've got cup holders on the top. Now the lid is removable and reversible. So you can take this lid, let me step in it here, pull it right off. So the lid comes out of the mounts, and you can use this as like a serving tray, put your drinks in it, float it around, whatever you want to do, and you can reinstall it either way. It even has measurement lines on there, so if you want to use it to measure fish, you can do things like that. Let me snap this back in. Snaps back in real easy. I did all that one-handed, clasp it back on, and very nice, lightweight, rugged little cooler. Let's give credit where credit's due. This Saturn inflatable fishing paddleboard looks so awesome with the rod holders, the cooler, and the outboard motor on it. I've got something real crazy in these boxes right here, and that's because when I saw how well this board was constructed with the abrasion resistance on the side and the bottom, I knew that we had to use this board for something more than just inshore and offshore fishing. I already have fishing skiffs for those type of environments. Now I'm in South Florida, right on the edge of the Florida Everglades, where some of the best fishing in the world is. And I realized that I don't have a tiny fishing skiff that I can take deep out into the Everglades. This little jet drive outboard motor is great. It can go really shallow, but it really struggles with debris in the water. So I got it on Amazon and I ordered this. This is a dirt cheap mud motor kit that I'm gonna mount on this fishing skiff and make the first ever deep swamp fishing skiff built just for the Florida Everglades. Now, as I'm saying this, it does sound like a questionable idea to take an inflatable vessel into the Florida Everglades through the swamp, especially where there may be sticks, snapping turtles, and worst of all, alligators. But that's why you watch this channel, because you let me make the questionable decisions. That way you don't have to. Look at this here. This is the 4-stroke engine for the mud motor kit here. And it looks just like an old go-kart motor or something here. This thing looks sweet. We just got to figure out how to mount it on the paddleboard. Now in here should be the drive shaft and the mounting plate for this mud motor kit. So I guess just to make life more interesting, China did not send me any instructions, so I got to figure out how to assemble all these parts on these mud motor and get it mounted. I think this is the base that mounts to the boat right here. And then this looks like the engine carrier that's gonna go on here. And then this can swivel around. I'm gonna have to get some grease here, because look at this bearing that came on this bracket. It's an open face bearing that just comes apart. It's not sealed up at all, totally exposed to the elements. So I'm gonna have to put some grease on that. Otherwise, this is gonna get absolutely destroyed by the water. So engine cradle, hopefully should just go right in here. And of course, the paint's too thick and it doesn't want to fit in. This thing's not gonna be able to turn. I've already pounded it halfway in. I'm gonna have to take this out and grind the paint out from the inside of this thing. Thanks a lot, China. I gotta get the Dremel tool and grind this out. And some grease for the shaft. Oh yeah, that's nice. Smooth as butter now, and some grease for the motor shaft. Ways in place. All right, now let's run these bolts in. The engine sets on the frame like this, and then these bolt together. Motor's coming together pretty good. I need to put this tiller arm here. So the tiller arm bolts onto the side here. All right, the motor's together. Still need to attach the throttle cable. It's a little bit heavier than I expected. It's probably 50 pounds, maybe 55 pounds. Let's go ahead and stick it on here. This is about where it's gonna sit right here. See how that looks there. That would just be below the surface of the water. Okay, so it took a little bit of work, but it's coming together. I had to make a mounting plate for the motor. I had this old boat seat that actually fit perfectly in the D-rings. I just had to drill some holes through it, mount these 2x4s on it, paint them up nice, screw it all together nice and strong, set it back on the board. Then I was able to strap it down with the same straps that came with the board, put the motor on, and it almost fits perfectly. So I screwed it right in place right there. And now it's time to fire up the motor and make sure it works. It took me a few pulls to get it going because the choke lever was labeled backwards. The engine mount on the Skiff turned out pretty good. Now, one thing I am worried about is this engine is basically a 5 horsepower blender on a stick. So it's gonna be really dangerous. If I fall off, I'm gonna get chopped to bits. So I got a safety kill lanyard from Amazon. So I need to figure out a way to attach the kill lanyard on here and wire it into the engine. So that way, if I fall off, engine will shut off. This rugged road cooler is gonna make a great seat for me to sit on. Now I have all this empty deck space in the front of the Skiff here, and what I don't have on board yet is tackle storage. So from Home Depot, I got this Milwaukee pack-out toolbox system. It's a series of interlocking toolboxes that mount onto a base. And I'm actually gonna use this as my tackle storage, my emergency gear storage, and my dry storage. So what I need to do is figure out a way to mount this up on the front of the board here. So I got some gray starboard to match the paddleboard. I cut it into strips and I smoothed it off. I measured the location of the D-rings, and then I cut 1/4-inch PVC pipe into dowels. I screwed the dowels into the correct location on the starboard strips. I was then able to take the starboard strips and snap them onto the D-rings. Then I laid the Milwaukee pack-out base onto the starboard strips, marked it, and I used some stainless lag bolts to mount it onto the strips. Now my Milwaukee mounting plate goes right on and goes right under the D-rings, and I throw on a couple zip ties just to help hold it under the D-rings. Now with the pack-out base in place securely, we can put the rest of the pack-out containers, snap them in, and our fishing accessory box is ready to go. And now it's time to take this out to the Everglades and test it in the swamp. The board was very easy and quick to inflate and get all the accessories attached onto it. We found a spot in the Everglades that was very shallow and it had a lot of debris underwater for us to crash the motor into, including reeds and lily pads all around us. Now this water had been all stirred up by a bunch of airboats that went by and was very murky, so you can't see the bottom, but it is really shallow. That's why the motor keeps hitting and scraping the bottom. Now this is the first time I ever used a mud motor, and I didn't realize how much of a workout it is on your forearm. Part of the problem is that I had that tiller arm tipped up too high. Otherwise I could have had more leverage on controlling the motor, which would have been really smart. I'm very impressed with how well this motor pushes through the lily pads. You can hear it stutter and hiccup a little bit as it hits the stem of the lily pad, but it seems to just chop right through it, no problem at all, and the board glides right through the lilies. It's actually quite impressive. Now where this mud motor struggles is with steering. It's got a terrible turning radius to it. That's because the drive shaft of the mud motor touches the back of the paddleboard and it can't actually turn all the way. The acceleration of the motor is actually really good. And the top speed I'm guessing is around 11 or 12 miles an hour, but I didn't GPS test that. And one of the cool things about these motors is you can full speed slam into something underwater and the motor just kind of bumps up and jumps right over it. Then you can feel the prop cavitate for a second and then it bites and it just continues to rip on. I pushed my way through some tight reeds real slow and the motor did wrap up on some weeds. I could feel it bog down. Now in order to clear out the weeds, I have to shut the motor off, and then I have to twist the motor 180 degrees so I can reach over, pull all the weeds off that propeller, and then turn the motor back around. Now what I did, I made a tie down to the board so I can tie down the tiller arm, which keeps the propeller up out of the water, and that allows me to pull start the motor without the propeller twisting underwater and potentially knocking me off the board. Now another great feature of this board is my Milwaukee Packout tackle box setup in the front also doubles as a grab handle. So for stability, you can hold on to that tackle box in the front and that thing is really secure and it keeps you nice and stable on the board. And with no waves around, the board is really stable on its own. Old School stood right up on this thing and basically surfed it around like a surfboard through the Everglades. And even when it ran through some thick lily pads, he was able to keep his footing upright and keep chugging through all the lilies. We ran this paddleboard hard and fast and we hit a lot of debris underwater. We ran over sticks. We even went over an old fossilized coral bed and the thing held up through all of it. No leaks at all. So I'm pretty impressed with the durability of this paddleboard. Now it does scare me that it's single chamber and if there was a leak in the board, the whole thing's gonna lose air. So that is very scary. If I went out deep in the Everglades like this all by myself, I would definitely bring an air pump and a patch kit. Now if the motor dies out, you can pull out the paddle and paddle this thing and it's really not too bad. Like I said, I can use that tie down the tiller arm on the motor, which keeps the prop up in the air, so there's almost no drag on the board, so it does paddle pretty easily. This rugged road cooler makes a great standing platform for fishing and it's actually really stable. I would have no problem standing up here for hours catching fish like this. Really great platform, gets you a high vantage point so you can look down in the water if you're sight fishing. Let me show you how I got this Milwaukee Packout box set up. On the bottom I got this tray that has miscellaneous tools in it, and then if you lift it up I got rope and other items down in there. Snap it shut. On the top level I've got my fishing tackle in there, different lures and whatnot, and then in the middle section here I've got the emergency gear, flares, fire extinguisher, whistle, that kind of stuff. Now I want to emphasize safety. Anytime you're out on the water like this, I always wear the safety lanyard or the kill lanyard, so if I fall off, it's going to shut the engine off automatically. You never know when you could fall off. You could get run over by that propeller, or the boat could just drive away from you and you're stranded out there all on your own. So always wear that safety lanyard and always wear a life vest. This life vest that I'm wearing is a Blue Storm Cirrus 26 life vest in the cryptic pattern. It's an auto inflate life vest, so if you fall off, as soon as it hits the water, it's going to inflate that life jacket. And when you're not falling in the water, the thing's got an awesome camo pattern on it and it looks really cool. And for protection from sun and the elements, I always wear Wetlands USA fishing shirts. These things are awesome. They look phenomenal, but they're really functional. They have hoods and neck gaiters built right into them, so you can pull it right over your head, keep yourself all covered and protected from the sun, and look really cool while you're doing it. They have a lot of South Florida inspired designs, like this peacock bass shirt I'm wearing right here that's got a peacock bass on the back, and it's also got the cool pattern on the arms as well. Drop a comment below and let me know what you would have done differently on this build. Let me know what you like and what you don't like about this mud motor paddleboard fishing skiff setup. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.